Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, over a century after they were looted by French colonisers, dozens of artefacts are finally back home in Benin. Our reporters head to Abomey as the treasures are returned. Despite the milestone, thousands of others taken from the continent remain in Europe. Also, African voices at COP26 call for a stronger commitment from richer countries who've been held responsible for most of the pollution driving the climate emergency. They've been asked to step up and take a stronger stance against the limiting of greenhouse gas emissions. Also, African content creators put Tik Tok on the spot. The continent's online influencers say the platforms overlooked them in the creation of a payment fund that only caters to users from the US and the European Union. But first, 26 works of art looted by French colonial soldiers in the 19th century touched down in Benin this week and were formally returned at a ceremony in the country on Wednesday. The restitution is the largest Paris has made to the former colony, but almost 5,000 works taken from the country are still held in France, as are tens of thousands of others from elsewhere in Africa. About 90% of the continent's cultural heritage is thought to still be in Europe, and African countries are still pushing for their return. Luke Shrego has more.
Back on Beninese soil for the first time in over 130 years, 26 artefacts and works of art taken by France during its colonial era, finally handed back in a move to restore African heritage to the joy of locals.
Today we're so happy about what's happening in our country. We're so happy. What we've been looking for, it's for our artwork to come back to us.
We've seen these kinds of works and photos at school and on the internet, but we're so lucky today because we're going to see it for real. It's our culture, it's ours. It's so important to us. We're overjoyed.
Among the articles handed back, statues from the former kingdom of Dahomey, which was located within the current Benin's borders. Until this week, they'd been housed in Paris's Quai Branly Museum, and their homecoming marks a long overdue historic moment for the Beninese people.
The stars have been aligning for Benin for some time now. The symbolism of the return to Benin is about our soul, our identity. This return is testimony of what we've been, the testimony of how we existed before.
The works will spend 2 months acclimating to their new environment before being shown at Benin's presidency for 3 months. After that, they'll find their new home at a museum currently under construction in Abomey, from where they first came so long ago.
Ethiopian police have denied indiscriminately rounding up high-profile Tigrayans in the capital. They claim to be targeting those that have links to the TPLF group at war with federal troops. The UN said that 9 of its Ethiopian staff detained earlier this week are still in custody. Now, thousands have been killed in a year of war that's triggered a humanitarian crisis. Human Rights Watch has accused the government of preventing health workers and aid from getting into the northern region of Tigray. 72 drivers for the World Food Programme were reportedly detained in the conflict-mired north on Wednesday. Meanwhile, Amnesty International's accused Tigrayan rebels of gang-raping women from the neighbouring region of Amhara. At least 11 university students were hurt in English-speaking Western Cameroon after an explosive device was thrown onto the roof of a lecture hall. Anglophone separatist rebels are thought to be behind the attack. Claudio Nsonu has more.
Several students of the University of Boya have been injured following an explosion at a 600-person amphitheater of the campus. The city is the capital of Cameroon's restive southwest region. Wednesday's attack has been claimed by the FACO faction of a separatist militia who have been fighting security forces in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. On Monday, a taxi driver was killed when another device exploded in his vehicle. Separatists also claim blamed the attack, adding that it was punishment for not following a ghost town separatist militias have imposed on the Anglophone region since 2017. The ban saw armed groups order residents to stay at home on Monday in a bid to strangle the social and economic life of the region. Several explosions have been recorded in Boya in the last few months, leaving inhabitants terrified that the worst might still be ahead. The Anglophone crisis has inflicted a brutal toll on civilians. Thousands have been killed and tensions mount as the conflict persists. In October, a 5-year-old schoolgirl was shot dead by a gendarme on her way to school. The officer was immediately lynched by an angry mob. And in January, Cameroon will be hosting the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations. And this increased insecurity raises concerns over the safety of players who would be staying in Boya.
Claudia Insuno there for us. Now, there's been a lukewarm reaction to the first draft of the deal from the COP26 climate summit in Glasgow. Around 200 countries are being asked to beef up their climate pledges by the end of next year. But many feel the wording doesn't go far enough. Negotiations over the final 2 days of the summit are likely to be fierce. African delegates feel that richer countries aren't doing enough to limit global warming, despite being responsible for the vast majority of pollution driving the climate emergency. Nick Juma with more.
The Glasgow summit is scheduled to end on Friday, and African delegations are increasingly concerned that the richest nations, the biggest polluters, will not do enough. A draft report released Wednesday doesn't provide specific agreements on the major goals that the UN had set. South Sudan's representative gave very concrete examples of the effects of global warming in her country.
For a third year in a row, 9 out of the 10 states in South Sudan are flooded. Subsequently, over 1.5 million people have lost their livelihoods or are living under dire conditions.
Somalia's delegate explained that climate change also has severe social and political consequences.
The climate crisis directly contributes to the protracted conflict dynamics and aggravates resource use competition, eroding communal resilience and exposing youth to exploitation by extremist groups.
Africa contributes less than 4% of global greenhouse gas emissions, but it's heating up more and faster than other continents. The draft report does acknowledge that rich nations have failed to live up to one of their pledges. They had promised to provide $100 billion a year in financial help by 2020 to poor countries dealing with environmental challenges. Many observers in Glasgow are pessimistic. They believe the talks are unlikely to clinch enough pledges to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels.
While staying with the climate emergency, in Tunisia, farmers have fought to preserve traditional irrigation techniques. They're currently on the UN's list of agricultural heritage systems of global importance, but are under threat from climate change. Laurent Berstecker with more.
60 kilometers north of the Tunisian capital, a patchwork of man-made islands stretches into the Mediterranean. Ali Garci has been cultivating this plot of land for over 20 years using an ancestral irrigation system, which now faces unprecedented challenges.
هذه نسميوها السبخة. السبخة عندها برغم اللي هي معناتها تتزود، يعني فما نقص في كميات الأمطار، وهذا فهمني معناتها قطعا يعني أثر معناتها سلبا.
The system, known as Ramli, which means sand in Arabic, was invented in the 17th century by Andalusian refugees. It uses fresh and sea waters, which are filtered through a mixture of sand and manure to irrigate the crops. The method's resistance to drought saw it recognized by the UN last year as a potential solution to recurring water shortages in North Africa, but its reliance on a fragile balance of rain and sea tides is being put to the test by climate change.
التلاحي التراثي تقريبا مهدد الآن بالاندثار نظرا لعدة عوامل مناخية بتتأثر عليه. ارتفاع درجات الحرارة من جانب، درجة الحرارة تجاوزت 50 درجة في الصعيف العميان. نفس الشيء تراجع كميات الأمطار والتساقطات على تونس.
In another warning that the Ramli system may be on its last legs, climate models suggest the extreme weather conditions of the summer, which saw record high temperatures and well below average rainfall, could become permanent in the near future.
While Senegalese influencers on TikTok say that they're being overlooked. The social networking site has 1 billion users worldwide and recently opened a €250 million fund to pay US and EU content creators. African users say that that's just not good enough.
They're Senegal's TikTok sensation. Doudou and Fainara often feature in videos together and perform sketches and parodies. But they don't understand why African countries have been left out from the TikTok Creative Fund.
We create. There's original content. There's everything. Pay us. We need this. It will motivate us to continue.
Why did they plan a budget, but not for Africa? Don't we have phones in Africa? Yes, we do. We have everything we need here. It's a shame, but I'm sure they'll realize this in the end.
The feeling of injustice is shared by another TikTok creator who made name for himself by making funny videos. Mambala has over 300,000 subscribers. He says the Chinese company has double standards.
TikTok must review its attitude towards Africans. As always, history repeats itself. We are marginalized. They don't involve us in serious things. And that's a shame.
TikTok has announced on its website that it might apply changes to its creative fund without giving any more details. For this social network specialist, African TikTok users must fight to have equal opportunities as other content creators in Europe or the US.
Today, content creators must themselves carry the fight to show that they have the ability to make things happen.
The Senegalese creators dream of having the same success as Khaby Lam, a Senegalese influencer based in Italy. With 116 million subscribers, he's the second most followed TikTok creator in the world and became a millionaire after just a few months on TikTok.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.